There we are. We are going live right now. I'm just setting it up. Anyone that's joining us, welcome. We are just getting back to our Zoom. Where is it? Okay, just making sure everything is running as per normal. Zoom. I am getting feedback. There was a little bit of feedback there, Chad. Okay, that's great. Marvelous. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Inspire Millions, stories to inspire your success. Today's topic is how to create more impact through authenticity. And today I'm having an amazing conversation with an incredible man that has been on this very similar journey to myself. We basically started in the same realm at the same time, doing our coaching, going deep into mindset, really understanding ourselves, moving forward in our businesses, creating audiences, creating impact for our clients. This particular gentleman is a neurotransformational coach. He has had massive success with coaches and clients, moving them forward to start living their dreams and living an authentic life, coming from the heart, everything based around their story and the acceptance of their story, because all we have is our own story to live by. Chad, welcome.
Brother Kane, how you doing? So great to be with you. Now, do you see me?
Now, I do see you. I am just going to switch views. There we are. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey. So wonderful to see you, my brother.
Wonderful to have you here, Chad.
Thank you.
You have an incredible story. It is extraordinary. And I was saying earlier on a live that I did a video yesterday about determination. Now, not only are we talking about how to create more impact through authenticity, but to do that, it really takes determination. To look at your dreams, it takes determination to actually move towards them. Because sometimes we're faced with challenges that can be so overwhelming, so impactful in a negative way, that we have to sometimes, while we're on our knees, laying, kneeling in the gutter, sometimes getting a foot in the face, a kick in the ribs. But there is always something that we're blessed with. Always something that we're blessed with. And that blessing is the gift of the dream that was seeded inside us. And understanding that and finding it and knowing it and really accepting it, the discovery of that, and really understanding this is who I am, that's part of our journey. And Chad, your journey just to get to where you are today, talking to me right now, is incredible. I mean, 6 years ago now, I think, is that right? 6 years ago, you went through a divorce, you went through burnout, through anxiety, everything came crashing down. And basically the world you knew didn't exist anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It was, I guess we're going on 7 years now. These years over the pandemic have gone by quickly. So where we think it's been 5 years or 6 years, I think we've just lost a couple of years, if you will, but not really, because inside of that loss, there's been a whole bunch of discovery as well.
And what would be the biggest discovery that you found so far? Like, get real. What's the biggest discovery from 7 year, the last 7 years? What's the biggest discovery that you've actually discovered in your own self?
I think the biggest discovery is a permission to be me, a permission to finally start unleashing the true me. And it has come through stages. It's come through the adversity. It's come through many, many ups and downs, because a lot of times what happens is, and what got me to where I was that we suppress it, right? We suppress the true nature of ourselves. We suppress our story. We suppress our authentic voice in compliance with what other people expect of us and what society expects of us and who we think that they think we should be. And what really happens is we're just trapping ourselves in a prison of pain by not allowing our voice to be heard. And so over these past 5, 6, 7 years, I've started peeling back the layers and giving myself permission and facing the adversity, not running from it, but facing the adversity. And each time I do that, I realize it's not that bad. In fact, there's a power in it, and there's a way to connect with people and get support that will allow me to be the authentic me that I've always wanted to be.
And that authentic you, Chad, what is that now? What does that look like to you now? What's that authentic you?
So that authentic me is someone who is comfortable speaking about his fears, someone who is comfortable holding space for other people who are going through fears and having a journey of self-discovery. It is someone who's willing to bear my soul a lot more than I used to be, and be okay with imperfect action, be okay with falling down and understanding that I got me. I'll be able to get back up. And that was something where I would look outside of me for that a lot. And now, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, the journey of self-discovery, that journey of personal development, that journey of connection has allowed me to realize that I am resilient and that I can get through anything. And I can ask for help when I need it.
That's a big one. Asking for help. It's very challenging. I was actually just having that type of conversation with an associate just a couple of days ago about asking for help. And it's fearful to ask for help when you don't like asking for help. But deep down, you know that you get to a point that you need the help. Tell me, what was it? What was the biggest fear for you in asking for help? Give us a scenario. I mean, so when you say you've got this powerful aspect of living authentically and being able to share your heart and share every aspect. So share with us, what did you actually have to do that moment? Give me a moment in the last couple of years where you've had to ask for help, even though you were like, I can't do this. But what did you have to do for yourself to get there?
Ooh, there have been a lot. And actually, those are all blessings. You know, those periods of adversity were all blessings. I just shared a story 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm going to do a video on it and release it maybe tomorrow. And it had to do with that anxiety. So for me, and I think for a lot of people, especially people who are in leadership roles, in positions of trying to help others, what happens is we don't want to talk about our fears. We don't want to talk about what's really going on, because if we're in a position of leadership, we want to show a sense of confidence, show a sense of courage in front of the people that we're leading. And what I was saying in this video was that the blessing in that, the lovely, wonderful thing, is that we get to celebrate their successes, but we also tend to absorb their potential failures and turn that into a reflection of our own abilities, our own worth, whether we're good enough. And for me, I used to hold all that in. I used to think that if I would speak about it, I would be a burden to others. What that was doing was creating anxiety in me. It was creating so much stress that I kept turning inwards in a destructive way, to the point where I was spinning. Really, I wasn't present with my family. I wasn't present with my kids. And, even when I thought I was doing a great job, I was worried more about appearing weak in front of the people that I was leading than I was actually being present and leading.
So let me just, weak, I mean, that's a really powerful word. We're two men, right? So any men that are watching this, weak has a ring to it that we don't like.
Slight negative connotation, yeah.
Right. And so tell me, that week, what was the fear with the week? I mean, I know some of your backstory, and you've had to go through such dramatic processes from such a young age. Mm-hmm. You defied the meaning of weak. You exploded it out of the park. So you're an adult now. And your fear is being weak. So how did you get there? How? I want to understand, how did you get to be so fearful of the notion of being weak?
Well, if we end up going back further, which we may for part of this conversation, I think we'll be able to uncover some of that. Yeah. But I think what happened was I was placing my worth externally. I was in a role of people pleasing, or at least I felt that I was sort of trapped in that role of people pleasing because I didn't want people to lead me. I didn't want them to not see me in a leadership role. I didn't want them to not respect me for what they saw, and so therefore, I was putting on we use the word mask differently now over these last couple of years, but really, that's what it was. And so many people do. We put on a mask, right? We put on a mask for the people that we think what they want to see of us, and underneath that, as I said in another video recently, there's another mask, and under that, there's another mask. So the weakness came from a feeling of not being in control of my own voice for fear that I would be judged for speaking how I really felt.
So the weak is actually in representation of a lack of respect and being judged.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it came to the point where, again, I could put on a really strong face externally, right? I could wear that mask really proudly. I thought that was leadership. I thought that was protecting the people I was around, but I was just doing them a disservice, but even more myself a disservice, my family a disservice. And it got to the point where that anxiety made it feel like I was having a heart attack. And I had to get to the point where I said, I can't do this on my own. There may be something medically wrong. There may be something with anxiety. At the time, I didn't know that's what it was, but I knew that I needed help. And for me, as a leader of dozens, hundreds of people, to have to ask for help made me feel like I was a failure. And so I did. I stepped into it, and what I didn't realize was I was having regular panic attacks. And the one that got so bad, I had to ask for help to go to the hospital, get my heart checked out.
So, wait. Had to ask for help. Oh my God, I'm just, my heart, can someone help me? Tell me the experience. What was the moment? I mean, get back in there and just share with us, what was happening? Where were you? What were you on your knees? Were you falling over? Were you crying? What was going on, Chad?
Let's get vulnerable.
Yeah.
I had this performance. I've been a performing musician for years. Musician, not magician. Although maybe it felt like being a magician putting on that mask. Musician, and I had a number of gigs. I'd gotten over a lot of the performance anxieties. But what I was doing was, when they became important gigs, I took everybody else's performance results on as a reflection of my performance. And so this specific performance meant a lot because we were going to have potentially a tour and some gigs coming up. And so the pressure was just insurmountable. I was, hours before, I was actually sitting in my car sweating, on the verge of tears, on the verge of asking to cancel the gig because I didn't think that I could go on with it.
Wow.
And I drummed up as much courage as I thought I needed to, splash some cold water on my face and run through some tunes ahead of time and get back in. But the whole while I was on fire with anxiety. I didn't feel like I was in control. And the gig went surprisingly well. I don't know if that was autopilot, years of rehearsing kind of thing. But to be honest with you, I don't really.
Like a button.
Yeah. Let's go. Showtime.
Perform.
Yep. But the irony in that is that I don't really remember it. I don't know that I remember that gig that well because I was so stressed. I was so concerned about everything else. And the whole time, heart's racing. And so at the end of it, everybody else seemed to like it. The audience seemed to like it. Bandmates seemed to like it. It's a horrible experience for me. So much so that, like I said, my heart was racing the whole time and it felt like I was going to faint. I'd never had that in a major performance before. And so when I drove home, I turned to my wife at the time and I said, we got to go to the hospital. There's something majorly wrong with me. And even to ask my life partner and say, because as husbands, as fathers, we want to be strong for our families as well. And so to do that, I felt here I'm stepping into another, like, man, something wrong with me. I'm weak. Why? Again, social programming, I'm not sure. But we got to that hospital and the minute you say something's wrong with your heart, they whisk you back into a room and they start putting electrodes and sticky pads and wires all over you. And shortly after that, the doctor came in and he said, well, good news. There's nothing wrong with your heart. But I think you've been suffering from panic attacks. Have you ever been diagnosed with anxiety? I was like, no. What do I have to be anxious about? I'm fine.
I'm fine.
And then it was like a smack in the face came because when I said the words, I'm fine, I went, oh my God, I'm lying to myself. Oh my God, I'm lying to everybody. Oh my God, I've been so afraid to say I'm not fine that it's gotten me to this point. All because of what? Ego, because of wanting to appear strong for everybody else. But I was chipping away at my health. I was chipping away at my relationship. I was chipping away at my job. I was chipping away at who I am and my enjoyment in life. And when I said those words, I'm fine, and it hit me, and I realized, no, I'm not fine. I'm going to have to ask for help. Not just, from the doctor, but from a counselor. Start talking about this and start allowing my authentic feelings to surface instead of burying them.
It's pretty intense. How long did it take for you to actually come to the acceptance that everything around you was falling apart? Like you're in hospital, you're going, I'm lying to myself. But what happened there? Did everything fall apart? What kind of time frame was it? Did you try to start standing up for the truth inside you, or did it take longer to actually accept it?
It was a journey. I mean, we're talking dozens of years of programming and trying to put on this face and trying to cover all of this over. And so, yes, did I start talking about it? Absolutely. Did I start acknowledging it? Did I start leaning into some more self-care? Accepted that maybe for that period of time, medication was the right thing, which again was sort of like, well, that means I'm weak if I got to take some medication for anxiety or depression. That was a real hit to the ego. At least that's what I thought at the time. And then you fall back into patterns, right? Just like a lot of things, you get comfortable. Oh, everything's going okay. And then you realize, oh, no, stepping back into that burnout role, stepping back into trying to do too much. So it was a journey for a couple of years of realizing, you know what, this isn't just a temporary change. It's kind of like, how would I equate it? Like yo-yo dieting, right? Where people try one thing and then they kind of gain the weight back on, then they try another thing, then they gain the weight back on. And that's kind of what the journey was for a number of years. And at one point, it just, I think the real hit was when I had to look at myself and go, this isn't going to fix itself overnight. And I am burnt out. And it had done irreparable damage to my career and to my marriage and to friendships. Because even though I was the jovial, happy-go-lucky guy on the outside, I was holding so much in on the inside that it was wrecking relationships. So it was when those started to fall away a couple of years later that it really hit me. This is something that I have to do a lot more work on.
And, it's an extraordinary journey, right? And it does take a huge amount of deliberate actions to create change.
Yeah.
And you've gone on that journey. Everything fell apart. You had a divorce. There was an affair involved. I think one of the hardest things to accept for a man when you go through a separation is if you lose the ability to see your children. That can play a major effect on your mindset and the acceptance of yourself. Because all you want to do is give love, right? Because when you have children, you want to provide as much as you can. And when certain aspects are ripped away from you or are made more challenging than they need to be, it can be heart-wrenching, it can be heartbreaking, it can have a major effect on the mindset and your happiness, trying to be in a happy state when you're not getting the love that you deserve. You're not able to share that with the people that deserve to be shared with. That's a tough journey to go through, right? Now, I think you spent about 3 or 4 years going through trying just to balance that turmoil of separation before you found coaching.
Yeah.
And we kind of started at the same time, right?
Yeah, we did.
We crossed each other's paths. Thank you, Tony Robbins. And Dean Graziosi, I got to say, it was during one of their challenges, and we met going on extraordinary journeys in very similar circumstances. Both been through a separation, both trying to really discover really deep down what it is that we need to give back to the community that is resonating inside our souls. Now, there are challenges that you've gone through in that small period of time. when you came across me and the notion of doing live videos on a group, how did you feel? Like, what was going on in your life? What was that determining factor? Because I've seen your growth and it's pretty incredible. But that first moment where you were like, yeah, I'm just going to do this challenge. Yeah, I want to change my life, man. Woo, let's go. How are you feeling? I mean, explain that. You're trying to get some sort of stability in your separation and your care for your children, and that's been a struggle. And as much as you've spent so much time in rebuilding those relationships and really trying to maintain that you are authentic, you are true, you are living the essence of the true nature of your own soul right now. And all you want to do is give the love that you know that you can give. But there was a turning point about 2 years ago where you went, this is something I can do. Explain that process.
Yeah, definitely. So just like you, for many of us, obviously the world got turned upside down in 2020. And for me, that journey of reinventing myself, I ended up getting into a new career and worked for a couple of years. And then layoffs hit. And I was left going, what the heck am I going to do now? It's like you raise up, you go up the mountain a bit, right? And then you get knocked back down. And you're like, oh, okay, what did I say? Round 2, right? It's kind of round 2, round 3 even. And so we're all at home. And I'm looking at myself going, well, I've got a saxophone and I can practice a lot, but there are no gigs. So I'm not going to be earning a lot of money here. And I started to see, jump online and see some people talking about personal development. And what was impressive to me was I started to see people like Lewis Howes and Lisa Nichols and Les Brown. And they weren't just talking about, great motivation and yay, way to go. They were talking about real stuff that happened in their lives. They were talking about deep stories. They were talking about adversity that they had overcome. When I listened to his podcast around that period of time, and he's talking about sleeping on his sister's couch, losing darn near everything, and not getting to play football anymore because of an injury. And I saw myself in that story because there was so much of my life that had gone away. And literally, I had been sleeping on my sister's couch for a period of time and not knowing where to go and what to do. And as I listened to his story, and as I listened to Lisa's story, and I listened to Les's many stories, I realized if they can do it, I can certainly do it as well. So I started to look into these online challenges and look into personal development. And I started to become more authentic with my story and where I had been, the depression, the anxiety, the burnout, the separation. But the one thing I wasn't doing was speaking about it externally. So I could speak to a couple of people about it, counselors and family, but I wasn't sharing on a bigger stage. And for me, that was butting up against that fear again, right? That was that vulnerability. So it wasn't just about pressing that red button and going live, because in those challenges, as it wasn't just, you can record a video and say a nice message. It was, you got to go live. Now, I'd been on stages performing in front of many, many people. So doing that wasn't a big deal, but going live and sharing something personal, sharing something deep, sharing something on the scope of Lewis Howes or Lisa Nichols, that brought it all rushing back. And I remember this, the sunny day, sitting in a park, holding my camera and literally shaking, literally going, do I do it? Do I press live? Do I go live? And then I thought to myself, what else do I have to lose? And more than that, what does someone have to gain from hearing some of my story, like I did Lewis's and Lisa's and Les Brown, and one of my mentors, Sean Smith, who I've heard tell his story numerous times. what do they have to gain? What if something that I said, where I open up my story, where I open up in an authentic way, will allow them to get back up, to get off the couch and get back in the game, to pull themselves out of anxiety or depression and realize that they can rebuild themselves. And that was the reason, that was the moment where I went, yeah, it's bigger than me.
It's always bigger than us. There's always a bigger picture. We're just drops. We're just drops in this beautiful world. And everything that we do has a reaction in the world. So we affect everything around us, everything in our family, everything in our communities. It all has a ripple effect. We're like this pebble that gets thrown every time we open our mouths. We create a ripple effect once we hit the water. Once those words go out there, it's creating a ripple effect. And you've got to be consciously aware and consciously responsible of the things that you stand for inside yourself, and what you say to yourself, what you say to other people, what you say to your community, what you say to your employees, what you say to your kids, what you say to your partner. You have to be very aware and responsible for everything that comes out of your mouth. We don't get it right all the time. And I'm sure you haven't got it right all the time. I know I haven't got it right all the time.
Yeah.
But you've got to own it.
And that's part of that journey, Kane, is being willing to step forward, speak authentically, and acknowledge that you're going to make mistakes on the way. You have already, but you're going to make mistakes. I mean, it was a young lady who talked about imperfect action in that one challenge, that very first challenge. Just get in there, just go for it. So what if you mess up? So what if you flub your words? It's about trying. It's about sharing. It's about taking that chance and accepting that we're not perfect and we don't need to be, because the message behind that is more important than the polish. And again, that's where I started to share. And the more I started to share on a deep level, as you said, the ripple effect, right? Like all of a sudden I started noticing, people aren't shying away from this. They're not judging me for this. They're actually drawn to it. They're asking more about it. They're wondering, why is this guy so comfortable talking like this and speaking about this? Not as many people do that. They all want to put on this great show and be the super six-figure coach, and everybody's going to look awesome and, be the guru. But the reality is, we all got stuff. We all have damage. We all make mistakes. We all are going to fall on our face. But speaking about it, speaking about those fears, acknowledging our failures, accepting them, being aware of what we need to change, and then sharing it actually is a form of freedom. And not just for us, but it creates that ripple effect that you spoke about, because it creates a freedom, a permission for those other people to start feeling like, hey, I can do that too. Yeah. So there's a power in it that I didn't realize, or maybe I just didn't see. We get those blinders on, and it can be right in front of us the whole time. I think I put a post up last year, and it's like, it's not difficult to just be you once you get out of your own way. Because you've been being you your whole life, but you've also been putting up walls.
Absolutely. Part of that is ego. I mean, men are driven by ego.
Yep.
You just are. We're competitive from a young age. We always want to be better than my mate. Yep. Run faster, tackle harder, draw better, dance
competition.
better.
Competition. Go get your gold medal.
Yeah. Yeah, I beat you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we go, yeah, but can you tell me about what's actually hurting you? And you're like, what? Nothing's hurting me. I'm fine. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm good. Yeah. Really? You're that good? Why are you sitting in your car at night drinking a beer?
Mm-hmm.
Are you that good? Why are you looking at your phone at 1 o'clock in the morning at all the other people's lives? Are you that good? Sometimes it takes a real deep reflection. And look, before I go into where you went on the last 2 years, Chad, I just want to specify how important to be able to create more impact through authenticity takes determination. It's not easy. It's not easy. Anyone that tells you that it's easy, I'd say it's easy to make $1 million. Bullshit. It's freaking not, but you need to have a vision. And you really need to be open to be able to pivot, to move direction, to know that something's not working, change direction. Let's try something else. That's still resonating with who you are. What I want to go back to, Chad, is that I want to go back to when you were young. I mean, you grew up as a young kid, your parents separated, you hardly saw your dad. That has an effect on boys, right? Not seeing their dad while they're growing up, spending most of the time with their mum, which is, nothing wrong. We all have masculine and sorry, cut out there. What is it?
He's back.
When it's on Do Not Disturb. Ah!
You know what? While you're not there and I'm here, let's do something authentic.
Yeah, yes.
Because this just reminded me, I was going to say this at the very start. When we acknowledge the potential for something to go wrong inside of our lives, inside of discussions, we remove the power that it has over us. And oftentimes that's one of the big things with coaches and course creators and people who want to do this type of presenting is that we want everything to go so perfectly. And then something happens and we like, "Argh!" And you have a background in improvisation and so do I through music. And so we can contend with that and we can kind of pivot, but for a lot of people that's decimating. But when we can acknowledge, hey, guess what? You know what? I didn't tell you at the start, Kane, but I have people that live above me and we may have a guest appearance because these kids like to run around. And so sometimes they knock each other over and it sounds like a stampede. That's okay. It's, you know what I mean? Like it not only does it lighten it, but it takes the power away. It takes the distraction away. So I celebrate you for having fun with the glitches of technology because they're going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like life. Life's going to have glitches. You just got to go with the flow. There's always a choice to either be positive or negative, and you can look at it either way. That's your choice. That's the way you can look at life. You can look at the positive or the negative, but things are going to happen, and you're going to be challenged, and that's just the way life is, and that's the beautiful part. But it does still take a determination to move towards the things that you truly desire. And I just want to go back to when you were 7, going through those. You were very athletic. You wanted to be a sportsman. That was where you began. You were being brought up by a single mom. Really physical sport. You were like, yeah, I got this, man. I'm good at this. You were getting crowds of people, friends. You were getting acknowledgements. And then something happened, which changed your life and your perception of what your life was. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. So you're right. I mean, I loved running like the wind, right? And I was one of the fastest kids in school, loved playing football. Not the international football. I'm talking American football, like really good. Or since I'm from Canada, CFL, because we have a better game. Anyways, but I absolutely loved it. And hockey here in Canada, of course, as well. And they're not only fast sports, but they're physical sports, which was beautiful. And I thrived on it. I loved it. Very, very athletic. And I think it was around 8 or 9 years old, the first time where all of a sudden I started having, some pretty horrible pains in my leg. It's like, well, what the heck's that about? Why, I haven't been hit. I haven't fallen. I haven't. And so it slowed me down, literally slowed me down. And I was, well, what the heck is going on here? And it turns out that I had a back defect, lower back defect called spondylolisthesis. And that's a slippage, where you have a vertebrae problem and then a slippage of the discs, and they're actually moving on you. And they're supposed to be stable, but they're not. And so the first phase is, okay, you just rest and could solidify or reverse itself. And then a couple of years later, it came back. And this was at the point where my leg was giving out. And I couldn't walk the way I used to. And so can't do contact football anymore. Can't do contact ice hockey anymore. I was actually doing gymnastics and enjoying that. And no, can't do that anymore. Maybe you have to be in a back brace. The stages of it at 11 years old, being told, stage 1 kind of sucks. Stage 2, maybe a back brace. Stage 3, likely surgery. Stage 4, likely paralysis. So my dreams for athleticism, high-level athleticism, slipped away like that. And I started to change, started to look at other interests, and I started adjusting what I needed to, but it was too late. Because a couple of years later, just while out having recreational fun, slipped, foot went into a pothole in a field, and that was it. Couldn't move. Literally was carried to a bed, barely able to walk. When I finally got checked out, the surgeon looked at me and said, "You are on bed rest for a week, and another week from now, you're having a spinal fusion." At 14 years old. So from aspirations of athleticism to what the heck do I do with this? And that's right at the time where, had separated parents, moved a couple of times, gone to a new school, tried to meet new friends, the whole gamut of challenges in life. And now you're going to be in a back brace or a cast, my apologies, a body cast for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So
for a
here you go.
15-year-old, that's like the end of the world.
Yeah.
You've got testosterone pumping through you. You've got hormones pumping through you. You're like, I just want some female attention. Ah! What do you mean? I can't move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a blow, Chad. That is such a big blow. Now tell me, how long did it take? Because that has an effect, right? That has an effect on mindset, on the perception of what you think you are, who you think you are. You might go into a shell. But how long did you go on that journey before you found and you pivoted and you went, there is life and it is exciting?
Spending 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks in the hospital right before Christmas, having a back surgery, then having a fiberglass body cast being put on you, where you're literally, rigid and not able to do much, certainly was darkness. Certainly was wondering why me. I think a lot of people get those sorts of feelings, and it was probably a couple of months where I just sort of sat around going, how am I supposed to socialize? How am I supposed to, obviously, no sports anymore. Can't go to school, homeschooled for 4 months of that 6 months. In my grade 9 year. But what I saw it was a perspective thing. What I saw was people in my life who started to step up and started to come around, some friends. My mom was a resilient and a powerful woman, raising 3 kids on her own, and just found a way to dig deep and share this positivity that I saw you take a big gasp in there, brother. What's the question?
I want to ask, do you think, because you spend a lot of time with your mum, do you think that she was being authentically real about her feelings and about the things that she had to do in her life to raise 3 kids?
That's an interesting question. Probably not as much as she could have been. And I think she probably put on a pretty strong face, which is something that I would have seen and then subconsciously, replicated years down the line.
Yeah, because you're getting all that pressure and you're like, no, must be strong. That's how parents do it. Must be strong. Must pretend everything is okay.
Well, she didn't have that type of voice. I will show her the video, though, and she'll have a good laugh. Your Australian friend really makes fun of my voice. No, you know what? It's a great observation because, to be honest with you, certainly, I have a ton of respect for the strength of my mother and what she went through and what she did. And so you're right. Most likely I observed some of that and then emulated it later on. And I think it wasn't until years later for her, once, the kids are out of the house, that she probably started realizing the toll that it took. So, was that a generational pattern, generational cycle there being repeated?
Traditional belief systems.
Yeah.
Passed over generational. Yeah. But please continue about this beautiful moment of transition. Teenager, sexual man, 15-year-old, getting powerful, but he's been crushed and held down. No. You can't enjoy the aspects of being a teenager. Tell me about this shift.
So what was interesting is when I got back on my feet, literally back on my feet, and that was a slow journey. I had to look for other interests and other things that I could do and other ways to, socialize with people and get back into some semblance of normalcy. And it was hanging out with some friends that suggested, they said, you ever been interested in music? You can't do football anymore. You can't do ice hockey anymore. What about art? What about music? I didn't really have a great experience learning the ukulele way back when, and so I'm not so sure about it. And this friend said, well, yeah, just come try it. The music director is pretty cool, and they'll let you try it out. And so, for whatever reason, I don't know, I liked the sound of the saxophone, and we went and picked one up, started making some horrible noises on it, which everybody does at the start. And what I found was, it was more than just music, but it was an environment of acceptance and connection. Because within music, in order to in order to sing or to play an instrument, you're actually giving something of yourself. And so I started to play saxophone and clarinet and realized that this was an avenue of expression for me. Not just technical expression and, trying to play notes, but one thing that really caught my ear was jazz improvisation. And that's an arena where you get to create, and you get to create your own authentic voice inside the parameters of the music. And as I started to lean into that a lot more, I started to feel alive again. Started to feel like, you know what? I think there's a meaning in this for me. Out of tragedy, if you will, out of something that was pretty horrendous for a kid to go through, I'm now finding a new voice, new way to express myself authentically, a new way to connect, new way to feel alive and vibrant. So over the couple of months from getting the body cast off and starting to do that, I realized, man, this is something else. This fills my soul. And I actually accelerated a couple of years worth of technique and learning into maybe 8 months. So I got boosted up into the next levels and got recognized for, he's actually getting this pretty quickly. And so then it was, some festivals and some high performances, and just, I felt like myself again, which was so wonderful after all of that.
Isn't it amazing how when we find something that we love and it resonates in our soul, and we work very, very hard on it to be able to make it a full-time living. And then you have kids, you have a family, you have a wife, and you need to make more money that's a little bit more stable. And you grab your dream, and you go, sorry, buddy, it's gonna put you over here. Just for a little while, just for a little bit. I'll come back to you. And then we forget that little bit of dream that was part of our soul is actually the part that's always growing when we're working on it. And when we put it down, because we believe that we have to provide, we have to give, we have to not focus on ourselves, we have to let that go, all of a sudden you can find yourself in a very unusual predicament, which can be anxiety or depression. Because you're not doing what you were born to do.
Out of alignment.
Out of alignment. You're not being authentically you. Bingo. Because being authentically you, if you're freaking happy, if you're in a state of happiness, if you're doing something that you love, and you're not making much money, but you're doing something that you love, well, you freaking win.
Yeah.
Because life's about happiness, but happiness is a choice. It's not an emotion. It's a state. And when we get forced or negotiated to choose something else other than the thing that lights us up, that can have long-term effects and affect so much of our own inner community that you think you're being strong, you think you're being real, you think you're being authentic, because I'm providing. But you forget one little aspect, that you just grabbed a piece of your soul and you put it on the shelf and you said, I'll get back to you later. Now, Chad, I know that I did that in my life. Did you do that in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. A number of times. And each, as you were saying, I liked how you put that. Each time you put it on the shelf, it's like you're taking a chunk of you and then walking around incomplete. And so then you have a couple of pieces missing, and you're still trying to provide full service of you, right? You're trying to provide a full experience, and you can't. And I think, to be honest with you, this pause over the last couple of years has brought perspective. It's brought back the perspective of those things that we put aside are actually important, because they're not an add-on. They are us. And in order to live authentically, speak authentically, shine authentically, we need to let those out. We not only need to let those out, we need to celebrate them. We need to live with them in alignment day in and day out. And that's where that anxiety comes in, right? When you're not doing that, that's where the incongruence is.
Yeah. You start hating things around you. You start
resentment.
Everyone else. You start going, well, it's their fault. They told me to do this, but it's not. It's your own fault for not standing up for what you believe.
Yeah. Yeah, you resent others. You resent others, but then I think, what the deeper hurt is when you realize more than that, you're resenting yourself.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people out there resenting themselves. And the reason I see it is because I have been there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It takes courage to make a decision that you're going to chase a dream. It takes determination that when you're challenged consistently, that you will keep pushing through those challenges, because it's just about growth. It's about becoming better, more understanding, more knowledge, more wisdom, learning things, bringing it in. Bring it in. Let's keep going. Let's just keep, because I love this. And this is where you are with coaching right now. You've gone through these. You're not shy of deliberation. You're not shy of adversity. It's been in your whole life. This is what I mean. Yeah. We have brought up our story, our journey are always the building blocks of who we are today. We just have to recognize it, that we do have the strength, that we do have the power, that we do have the ability to choose what it is that we want to do. And you made a decision 2 years ago that this thing called coaching hits your soul just like music made your soul sing.
Absolutely. Because I could see the parallels. I could see the parallels of getting in touch with your authentic self, and then having avenues for expression, and then connecting with people through that authenticity. And by doing that, then you're empowering them. You're empowering them to get in touch with their authentic self. And then when they're able to finally get in touch with their authentic self and release the voice that they have inside of them, then there is, and this is, as well as I do, the reason I use the wording I do for my coaching is there's a resonance. Because now you have somebody who has elevated their thoughts and their feelings and their actions, and they've healed, and they've started to become more in tune with themselves and become more authentic. And now they're resonating within their own self, within their own environment. They're creating their own ripple effect. And then you have one who affects another, who then affects another, which affects the many. And so when I saw this, not unlike playing a beautiful note in a cathedral or at a concert hall, where it's so, you create this beautiful, pure sound because you're allowing your authenticity to shine. You're allowing your heart to create something, and then it reverberates and resonates inside of that arena or inside of that concert hall. There's a magic. There's a magic that just is, it brings people alive. And so when I experienced coaching and I realized that someone gave me that gift of helping me to unleash another level of authenticity. And then every time I started to share more, just like I did in music or do in music, that ripple effect started. People started to go, what's that about? How come you feel like you seem so comfortable? You can just share these things. And what sorcery is this? It's getting in touch with the soul. It's getting in touch with that authentic bit of your soul and helping others do the same. And so, yeah, that parallel and seeing people have those shifts, seeing them have those insights, those moments of, oh, I feel like you just helped me take a lead backpack off. And I can finally stand up, and I can finally speak my truth, and I can finally walk forward and be me. That's what lit me up. And that's why I have to do this. That's why when I watch people come to me and they ask, I'd like to get more comfortable on camera. I'd like to be able to speak more authentically, but I don't know how. We start digging into those limiting beliefs. We start digging into the core wounds, some of the ones that I have that I can recognize, other ones that are specific to them. And we start to peel back the layers. And the next thing you know, they start showing up differently. And they start sharing their message. And then people are asking them, can you help me? Can I learn from you? Oh, such a fulfilling feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody, the thing is, Kane, just like in music, this is, I think, one of the other parallels, which I realized was I spent years teaching saxophone, teaching music, helping people go from making ugly, honky, squawky sounds, which they really are. We can be honest, they are at the start, and learning how to craft that into a beautiful, personalized voice that comes from the soul, that comes from the heart. And that's what they were doing. They were releasing their voice. It was just on an instrument. And as I started to get connected with course creators and coaches and leaders and realize that they have that within them as well, it's just through their words, through sharing their story, through sharing powerful experiences, through sharing authentic situations, sharing authentically situations which maybe other people wouldn't have the confidence to share. And then they start to learn how to do that and connect on a deeper level. And it impacts.
When they connect, Chad, it's not about connecting on a deeper level with someone else. I just want to get this clear. It's connecting with your own self first on a deeper level.
Yeah.
It's understanding the depths of yourself. Because if you don't understand yourself to the depths of your core, you can't truly express yourself to someone else from your soul. It's evolution. It's constant growing. It's constant changing. It's always listening. It's always talking. It's always thinking. You never stop thinking.
And you never stop growing.
You never
stop growing. Yeah.
People think they're not growing, right? They're doing the same job. As an example, they're doing the same job for, like, say, 15 years, and they think they're not growing, but they are. Every single day, you're having different conversations. You're talking with different people. You're communicating. You're watching different shows, different TV, different news. It's all information. It's constantly putting things into the program that you get to decipher. The most important aspect to that, Chad, which is the topic for today of, how to create more impact through authenticity. Well, you create more impact through authenticity by being authentic with you, first and foremost. And that takes guts. It takes courage. And if you're a man, it takes balls, man, to sit up and look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, right? It takes big basketballs, right? To look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? I got some fucking problems. I need to sort that shit out because it's mine.
Yeah.
And if you're a girl, well, man, you need something big. You need a big female energy to sit there in the mirror and go, shit, I got some work to do on this sexy baby.
One of the things that's amazing, Kane, is that when you can come to that awareness and accept it and speak it, all of a sudden other people start to go, I got you. You don't have to do this alone. Because I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have, is that even if I acknowledge it, even if I admit it, I'm still alone. But you're not, because when you come to that authentic realization, all of a sudden that creates a commonality. And people go, oh, I know somebody who's felt like that, or I feel like that, or I know, and we can get through this together. And so by going deeper with your authentic self, what you're actually doing is creating a permission for you to express. And by expressing, you're creating that commonality for other people to do the same. And all that is doing is growing and healing, empowering, and thriving. And when I say all that, it's not to belittle it, because that's darn near everything.
Look, Chad, I just want to get real. In the last 2 years, both of us have thrown everything that we know. We've learnt as much, we've continued learning, it's never ending, but we have thrown everything, every bit of money, every bit of time, every bit of ability in our own selves to create a new world in our own lives, to create a support mechanism for our families. Even though we're separated, we're still families, right? We're single dads. But it's not easy. But we had to be authentic. We had to be vulnerable. We had to ask for help at stages. We had to borrow money. We had to go, this is what I know to be true in my heart of what it is I desire to do. This is my pivot in life. This is my pivot. I had a film production company and then moved to a little town, and it was very difficult. I got depressed, anxious, hated my job. But I pivoted because I constantly searched for an answer inside myself. I constantly dug deep of trying to understand. Once I got through that pain, it once I broke through the pain, it was looking deep down and going, what do I want to do now? How can I be happy consistently? How can I live in a joyful state? What's going to make me thrive? What are my skills? Same with you, your experience, your leadership skills, your ability to understand and listen to people's tones and their speech patterns and be able to look at the blocks that they have. These are skills that, it hasn't been 2 years, both of us. We've had 30 years of experience shaping and shifting our ability to do what we do now, which is where you are. It takes determination to be authentic. It takes determination to stand up for who you believe you are now. The people that you've been helping, Chad, have had massive shifts, massive breakthroughs. The clients that you're working with now, they're going to another level. And almost from what I understand in our conversations, almost to a surprise to you, going, I can't believe how far they're going. This is amazing. I can't. It's boosh, brain explosion. Wow, all this time and effort of study and research and building has come to fruition. And the ability that you have right now, just leave me with something, Chad. I mean, you're an extraordinary man. You're an extraordinary coach. You've helped people live their vulnerable, authentic self, to be able to create their own audiences, to get out in the world. Because how do you change the world? You start with you first, which creates change in your family, change in your community. You create audiences that see the change in your life. Leave me with something, Chad, about how the last 2 years has impacted your life and changed the lives of the people around you.
How long do you want this to go on for? You know, what's wonderful is that through this journey of self-discovery, through this journey of giving myself permission to be my authentic self, I've managed to resonate in new communities that I never thought I would connect with people. I am in communities where I'm speaking with people around the world and learning on a level that is well beyond what I could have ever imagined. But what I'm doing is I'm turning around and sharing that and empowering people to do the same. And it has allowed me to have conversations on deeper levels, with more love, with more I had to stop myself there, Kane. So if you want me to be really authentic,
that's what I want, Chad.
With more humility, in realizing that when I step forward and just connect, get rid of a lot of the bullshit that we're taught and just connect, it changes lives. Peel back the layers, step forward in authenticity, let your heart shine, let your soul be seen, and people start seeing that. They start asking, how can I do that? And I've had people who've had these dreams about coaching, about being an author, about doing videos, about starting Facebook groups, about creating their own impact, who now are turning around and doing that and creating their own ripple effect. and creating magic in the world. And by doing that for me, and I'm doing that for them, I'm also doing that for my family and for my community. This is going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. Because as you did at the start, that pebble drops and our impact continues.
Chad, you're an incredible man. I just want to give the audience the notion of, they've heard about your struggles, but let's show some of just those little successes that have happened in your life on a very deep personal level, which is the relationship with your children and the relationship with your ex-wife, and the shift that you've seen because of the real essence that you've been echoing in your own self.
Yeah. You know, by leaning into the things that I didn't want to face, leaning into those fears and becoming raw, letting people see the authentic me, it's done a couple of things. One, it's allowed me to see my children on a whole new level. It's allowed me to be willing to have discussions with them that I would never have imagined having, because I would have thought that I would have had to tell them this is what to do, instead of say, this is where I've been. That, for me, along with the realizations through the anxiety and the burnout and through all of the adversities, is that time is not given. And I know I can't get those moments back that I lost, but I can be present, truly present for everything that is and comes, has been a gift beyond words. And as far as the relationship and the communication with my ex-partner, with my ex-wife, when you go through something like that, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of hurt, a lot of blame, a lot of anger. And we tend to step away from the side of understanding and putting ourselves in their shoes and approaching with love. But it's through this journey of coaching and through this journey of internal work that I've been able to stop myself and ask questions instead of tell stories. And ask the questions of, how are you feeling? Where are you at with this? What can I do? Instead of, you shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, this shouldn't be that way. And that's changed the dynamic completely. Still, it's a journey. We're always learning, we're always growing. But the fact that I can step outside and be the observer now, those skills that I've learned through coaching and learned through life, has changed the relationship in such a wonderful way, both for me and my children, me and my ex-wife, and moving forward, I can only see it getting better. So it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful, Chad. Thank you. I just want to honor you and thank you for allowing me to have a deep and real conversation with you. Thank you for being on Inspire Millions, stories to inspire your success. Thank you for the topic of how to create more impact through authenticity. Could you tell everyone where they can find you if they'd like to get in touch, to build their own audiences, to really develop their own skills in being authentic and vulnerable in their own lives, to take their lives to another level, to take it to another level and another level, because that's what we do. Could you let everyone know who you are?
Absolutely. So when I started this journey, I came up with the name Elevate to Resonate. Because again, when we elevate our thoughts, feelings, and actions, we resonate in all areas of our life. And so it's at, literally the at sign, elevate dot to dot resonate. And that's on Facebook, on Instagram, and then ETR Life Coach on Twitter, and Coach Chad Smith on LinkedIn. So you can find me on all of those different platforms. You can either look for Coach Chad Smith or Elevate to Resonate. And I'd love to support you, have a conversation, get to know what your challenges are, and help you release your voice. And if I may, I'm excited that I will be launching a Facebook group soon. It's called The Coach's Voice, with a Release Your Voice program specifically geared towards coaches and course creators who are having that anxiety, that nervousness about presenting in a real and authentic way. You know, they may have to do some of the inner work, and then we've got some purposeful practice and some steps to get them releasing it, getting more comfortable on camera, getting more comfortable on the microphone, not worrying about all of the external that goes on, and just showing up as you.
That's awesome, Chad. Thank you. Everyone that's watching, if you love this, if you want to see more interviews like this, press subscribe, like the video, and we will see you again. Chad, it has been a pleasure and honor. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, King. Appreciate having the opportunity to share. Thank you so much.
Take care. See you all.